Sounds live.
We're good.
Okay. Okay. Can we start with the pledge?
Pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So in lieu of a roll call, we'll just go around and introduce ourselves. I'm Denise Mallet from Berwick.
Nancy Newbert from Lebanon.
Linda Coolidge from Berwick.
Dwayne Potter from Lebanon.
Travis Lyon from Berwick.
Stephanie Hagenboo, Lebanon.
Estrida Schaefer, North Berwick.
And Rebecca, you want to introduce yourself?
Rebecca Hopper from North Berwick.
Okay, and not present is Lynn Manley.
Just a sound check. Can everybody hear okay out there in the internet land?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
So public input.
We will be having just one public input tonight at the beginning of the meeting, a 15-minute session with each person having no longer than 3 minutes to make a statement. If there are some pertinent questions that come in during the meeting, we maybe can add that to the end of the second session at the end. Speakers will give their names, address, reason for speaking. This input is designated for district residents, but the board chair may grant non-residents the opportunity to address the board. Statements concerning subject matter that falls under the law regarding executive sessions, for example, matters involving personnel, cannot be made during public input.
Okay.
All right, so Sue, are you reading them tonight?
I am the public input reader. Just so you know, we have developed a spreadsheet that has the information, the statement that folks had asked to be read. And then we've also put an administrative response on there. So we're going to link that on the agenda so people can go in and look at our responses. We will give a very brief version of that here so that I'm trying to answer some of the questions, but we don't want it to go into too much detail because some of it's a little specific. They're asking very specific things. So, Chris A. from Berwick. I appreciate that we gave the option to keep our children home, as I don't feel this is a safe time to send them into public settings. With that said, my child is going into kindergarten, and I'm wondering if the remote learning will be shorter hours. I'm wondering how the 6 hours a day will go. Is there going to be adjustments to the remote schedule for these young children who already need to get up and play and are fidgety when sitting too long? Is there going to be a list from the teacher assigned of what materials we need to have prior to day one? Thank you for your hard work. I'm going to tie that one into a further question, which is any thoughts of kindergarten doing half days, especially for remote? That was from Kay Allen in Berwick. So basically what we'd like to say, and then again, it's a little more detailed there, is that we've developed programming for our remote learners that's developmentally appropriate. So for instance, for kindergarten, we're balancing teacher instruction with independent practice time. That will look different than what a sixth grade student will be seeing, and adjustments will be made to remote scheduling to address the needs of the young learners as we go along. And in terms of the information from parents or from classroom teachers, that all that should be going out in the days ahead, in the short days ahead of us. Right. For the next question, Vicki Morgan of North Berwick. Why can't teachers teach virtually but live, just as they would in a live classroom? I feel that my children's education is going to suffer in the extreme due to having their workload cut in half and only half hour of their time in virtual classroom, which will be teacher-led. The rest is for Q&A via email and Hangouts, right? My boys will both be sophomores this year and will only be in school 1 day per week. I'm truly concerned that their education will suffer due to not being challenged at all with this light workload, and that socially and emotionally they will suffer from lack of being with their classmates. My main point is, why can't teachers teach a full classroom time virtually? So, and then I'm going to tie that one into from Lisa Massey of Lebanon. Dear school board members, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to weigh in on this very important issue. After reviewing the sample schedule, it appears that over the 5 school days each week, Our high school students will have 26 hours of individual work and just around 9 hours of teacher-led instruction. Put another way, 75% of their school week will be self-paced work time and 25% will be instructor-led. I understand that online learning is a whole different animal, but I am concerned with what appears to be an imbalance between teacher-led and student-driven learning. If possible, reconsidering a schedule shift to provide students with more teacher-led online curriculum seems like it would be most impactful for our students during this challenging time. Thank you for your time and consideration. We have a really long response and I'd like to defer to that. I'd like for people to check in on that, but I will just say, if I can make this quickly. One of the questions is like, why can't we just have live all the time? And the reality of it is that our teachers are teaching on the 2 days that they're in, kids are meeting with them in, how do I put this? The 2 days that they're doing remote, the teachers may also be working with other classes in person. So there's a whole shift of the schedule. But I have some better details in the answer on the website. It's a little bit, it's hard to like go through the whole thing, but for the reason why teachers can't be live and virtual, online, remote, like they were on Monday, Tuesday on the days that they're in person, for instance, is because they typically will be on-site teaching other assigned grade levels that are having their turn on-site. And most of our NHS teachers teach a variety of courses and grade levels. So that's specific to that. And then in regard to the online time, so for instance, we have a 1 hour class. When the high school put out the information regarding the timing, they basically just said half-time teacher-led, half-time working in like support situations. When we're working with our kids in a regular classroom setting, you don't do 100% the full time of just teacher, instruction. You break it up into pieces. So I think that each teacher will do that a little bit differently, but they'll be working with their class, and in that same time frame, in that full hour that they're together, they'll also be in the room supporting kids individually or in small groups. So they'll have the teacher-led instruction the full hour. Understandably, that is not the same exact as what we get on in a regular schedule. But I'm going to refer you back to this administrator response because it's a little better than I just said. Let's see, next question. That one, teaching virtually. This is from Pam Parks in North Berwick. Is there a crash course or video explaining how Google Classroom works? I had difficulty navigating through to find assignments, videos, etc. I think it would be very beneficial to parents if we knew exactly how to check progress for our kids, that our kids are making, and to check if assignments are turned in, etc. So we will make sure that a video is available for parents for this crash course. I talked to Mr. Russo about it even this evening, and he said that that's actually something that they're already in the process of developing. And we will also be assigning a specific staff member to be tech support to parents to provide help with technical issues. So there'll be a go-to person specifically for our parents. Next.
Hold on a second.
Yep.
What do you want to want? We had a little technical difficulties. We weren't actually live for the first 2 questions. So we're now live now.
Okay.
But the video, he's going to post the recording at the end.
Okay.
That'll have the answer to the first 2 questions.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for clearing that up. Yep. I'm not sure I could repeat that. Next question. This is from Nicole Facto from Berwick. What can parents do over the next 2 weeks to prepare our children for hybrid schooling? What can parents do over the next 2 weeks to support teachers and staff in preparation for hybrid or virtual schooling? Very much appreciated. Audra and I spoke about it, and I think, as a team, we're basically asking for our parents to work with their students in regard to, masking and hand washing and all of those pieces. Help them understand the importance of this as we enter the school. Practice this at home, masking, hygiene, safety models. Talk about social distancing with your children, and we just will be sending out in the next 24 hours the fall 2020 family letter regarding health and safety. And that will be, if they read that carefully and try to just go over that with their kids, that would be really helpful. Other than that, just be kind, I think is what I'm going to ask. From Kate Kennington of Berwick, can you provide brand names and/or ingredients of cleaning products that will be used in the classrooms, as well as for hand sanitizers? Will children have the option of bringing their own or choosing to wash with soap and water? Lastly, I've heard other districts will be fogging classrooms on a regular basis. Will this be happening in our district, and if so, with what chemicals? So the products that we're using are in our buildings throughout our district are called Nutrifect and Contact 64, which we have the MSDS documentation, which provides all the information about what's in them and all that piece of it. We have to have those on hand. That's a law. We will also be providing Clorox wipes throughout the buildings for staff to have on hand. The hand sanitizer that we use throughout the district is called Symmetry Foam Hand Sanitizer. All disinfectant wipes we're using are all approved for municipal use and are all purchased through WB Mason. All sanitizing products, foam or gel-based, are all EPA approved for use with, along with the approval from the CDC and the State Fire Marshal. We are not using foggings or foggers in our classrooms or other areas of the district. And if students can bring their own hand sanitizers, they're selling them like mad in the little packs for people to bring out. Let's see. And Betsy Kelly from North Berwick. This is just a comment. I would like to see the start of the school delayed until 2 weeks after Labor Day for safety. Also believe that 6th graders need more than 2 days in school, as it is a big year of change for them with educational requirements. Sherry Gill of Lebanon, when will a final decision be announced about middle school fall soccer season? We are currently waiting to hear from the Maine Principals Association on those very issues regarding sports throughout. And I don't have a good answer for that yet. Hopefully soon. Let's see. Sarah Amasio from Lebanon. Thank you for all your work on this matter. How often will the school evaluate the operating protocols and procedures? We will be evaluating everything weekly. So every single week we'll be looking at this. And Audra Byram from Berwick. What will a school day look like for 1st graders? Also, how do teachers feel about in-person learning? So, schedules will be coming out from the schools shortly to help parents better know what a day will look like. There's a wide variety of thoughts regarding the in-person return to school. Our staff would like to be as safe as possible, but also value in-person connection with their students. So there's that one. And this one is from Ed. I'm sorry, I'm gonna sacrifice your name. Dubanowitz from Lebanon. Why is it not possible for transportation to allow 2 students from the same household to sit together, so it will allow parents with 2 households the ability to have their students transported to school? So 2 children from the same household certainly can sit in the same seat on the way to and from school to a single home address. Currently, we can only accommodate 1 address per student. If we find that we have more flexibility in the future, we will work with families to potentially add a 2nd address. We won't know that for a little bit as we work through. All right, so that was from Lisa. And this is Geneva Nice from Lebanon. I'd like to suggest to the board that the school mark off each child's designated workspace in the classroom. Masking tape can be used for this and would allow the children to remove their masks when they're in their space. The Maine Catholic schools are taking this approach. I'd also encourage the board to read the Maine State Catholic Schools Reopening Plan, which is available online. Thank you again for all your work in these challenging times. And lastly, our last question thus far is from Sarah Harvey in Berwick. Now that we have a class schedule and the surveys have been completed, I'm wondering how many kids will be in the school at any given time. I'm also wondering how the school, NHS in particular, will handle students moving from one class to another, as these times in the hallway will have the largest crowds. So 2 grade levels at a time at the high school. Average class size is between 200 and 220. The high school admin has developed a protocol for moving from one class to another and has reduced transitions as much as possible. I don't have the detailed plan, but that's it. That's our public input for this evening.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right. Phew. So just to recap, last time when we met, we said that we would take some information that we've gathered through our surveys and provide an update for you tonight. We also were waiting to see how the Governor Mills administration was going to designate York County, which came back Friday as green, which would indicate that we could potentially open in hybrid based on that designation. So the purpose of tonight is to kind of go through some of this data and then have a conversation about how to move ahead for the fall, for the start of the school year. So at a point throughout this evening, we will need a motion and we will need to accept a form of attendance in school for September. So there's that piece. Just a recap that on Friday we were designated as green for York County. Here's the survey information, and I will read it just because it is a little far. As of August 17th, we've had 82 families sign up for hybrid. In the July 31st survey, 91.7% of staff responded that they would be able to return to work following health and safety guidelines outlined by the CDC, the Maine DOE, and DHHS. 8.3% of staff reported that they would need additional accommodations, and since that time, we've been meeting with staff to talk about those particular accommodations. And some of those range from additional PPE, such as shields that cover their chin, go under their chin and over their faces, to other kinds of health pieces that they may have. So we're working with the staff member and their physician to work through the best kind of accommodations to meet that. So the third piece is that a fall planning survey was distributed to staff in late May. The purpose was to collect feedback to assist with our planning process for the 2020-21 school year. 384 staff of 603 responded to the survey. Of particular note, there was a specific question regarding comfort level in returning to the school in the fall. So here is the chart. So the question was about returning to school in the fall, and we had a scale from 1 to 5. 1 was very uncomfortable, 5 was very comfortable. So you can see we had 8.9% of those that took the survey at a 1, 15.1% at a 2, 30.5% at a 3, 19.5% at a 4, and 26% at 5, which was very comfortable.
This was taken when?
This was in
End of May.
late May. Yep. This is like a preliminary survey to look before we're like, okay, here's this feeling. And then now we need, the last survey we sent, I was like, we gotta figure this out.
And we use this to help guide us in our development of our 3 phases. This is our transportation update. So in a typical year, we transport 72% of our student body to school. With the current guidelines, we will be able to transport 52% of our students. Utilizing shuttle runs, if necessary, we could transport up to 1,652 students. And currently, we only have 1,100 students registered for transportation. So that's 37% of the total amount of students that have signed up for hybrid. And we will put another call out tomorrow just to make sure that we haven't missed anybody in those registrations that we've done.
Can I, quick question?
Sure.
How many parents have not done the registering?
We have pretty close to 3,000 actually who have registered. So we're at I don't know, there's probably 100 to 150 parents that we're chasing down.
And
It's pretty good, actually.
it's very good, and schools have been calling since last week. They've been making contact with everybody they haven't heard from. Or
The transportation one, though, you didn't have to fill out if you weren't interested.
If you are not
Correct.
interested, so the registrations are only for those that are interested. We're gonna send, we're gonna send another call out to say, hey, but when we sent out our parent survey earlier, we asked how many folks could transport, and the numbers that returned, it was probably, I think we had about 1,500 just responding. 50% of them said that they could transport their kids, which actually translates kind of exactly to what this looks like. So.
The schools have come up with a plan of orientation to get specific grade levels in transitional years, primarily in at different times. So this is the proposal for September 8th. Kindergarten would come in by appointment. So that would be at each building. They would come in to meet with the teacher. So the parent, the student, and the teacher would meet together. And then grade 5 in Lebanon. So they would be at the middle school, our current middle school, and then grade 6 up here. September 9th, it would be district kindergarten in all of their buildings, and then 7th grade. September 10th would be 1st grade and 3rd grade, and then Berwick 5th grade at the middle school and 8th grade. And September 11th would be 2nd grade and 4th grade, grade 5 from North Berwick, and the 9th grade. And September 14th would be the start of the schedule. So that's the current proposal as far as orienting some of those students at those transitional grades.
So kids 10 through 12, would they be having some sort of remote orientation with teachers, meeting, getting?
Currently, we're looking at them actually beginning on the 14th. However, SRTC is going to start earlier than that, so those 11th and 12th graders will be heading in sooner. And we're open to like a conversation regarding, connections earlier.
Yeah, I mean,
We're
if
just
the majority of their learning is going to be remote anyway,
Yeah.
there's no reason they couldn't
right.
at least begin some sort of orientation.
Part of this was just a reflection on the phase-in that folks talked about at the board level, thinking a phase-in would be helpful. So we asked our team to come up with this sort of orientation piece, so it phased us into a full-on on the 14th.
What about the lower grades that are remote? They're going on the 14th too?
Right, so everybody, if you can see,
You mean the ones that just signed up for 100% remote?
Yes.
They could potentially start earlier.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
so,
Thanks.
yeah.
And I think those are that's the information that we wanted to share.
And then ask any questions that you have of us regarding the plan. But ultimately, it's the board's, purview as to how you would like to begin our school year.
I've got one quick question. With the surveys that went, the registration that went out for the parents, the date on there threw some of them in terms of feeling like, oh, we don't want 4 months of our kid having to stay home. We thought we could do it for a short period and then send them back into school, something along those lines. I guess clarification a little bit for that, but also if they signed up for hybrid, feeling like they had to because of that, is there a way out for them? I know they've already done their registration, where there was confusion, kind of hoping that some of them might be able to renege if that's what they wanted to do.
So in the survey, we did have it by the semester because of the high school, so that's why it was written that way. But we certainly understand that parents may want to come in and out of, if they start hybrid, they may want to go to remote and vice versa. So we do have the ability to have students re-enter or to leave. Re-entering might take a little more time just because we have to make sure that things were set up for them ahead of time. But we certainly have that availability.
Right.
So we can clarify that
Okay.
again.
That's what I thought I
Yeah,
understood from the
yes.
meeting, but then when I was getting questions about it and the way that the other people had interpreted it, I was saying, maybe I was confused, I just want to make sure for what I'm giving out for info
Right.
too, so.
Yes.
And there's always our role is to educate kids. So if folks want them to be in school and we can provide that, we're going to do the best we can to do that. The issue will be probably around transportation. So if they've signed up for remote and want to then move in, there may be a time frame where they're gonna have to transport until we can figure out that transportation piece. But that's actually typical of any new registration anyways. Because it
But
takes
I would hope that they would give it like 2 weeks or something.
yeah.
Don't say the second day, oh, that's it.
Right, and
You know,
agree. That would be good.
that would be crazy.
That would be good. But we're here to, we're here to work with the children, so.
Are we looking at allowing the in and out process? Like, or do we want to say, well, you got to commit to one or the other, but not be flip-flopping back and forth every week?
I don't think we
Or how
can
do we
do
want to
that.
handle that?
As the situation changes, the parents are gonna have to make
Yeah.
decisions on the fly.
Yeah. It's similar to us making decisions on the fly, as circumstances might change in the public, we may be making a decision really quickly that we are going remote versus, but to your point, Travis, I think we'll have to communicate with individuals who do flex back and forth because that will cause quite a bit of difficulty. My guess is honestly, that will be few and far between, and we could probably deal with those on an individual basis.
One particular note, because this is just interesting as well. Last year, we had 144 students homeschooled. Right now, we have 81 students signed up to homeschool.
I'm sorry, Audrey, I couldn't hear you. What did you say?
Sure. I said, last year we had 144 students homeschooled that registered through the state for homeschooling. Right now, we have 81 students registered.
Wow.
They like the remote option.
Well, there is that, and then there's the also, just to be fair, a lot of the folks that are typical homeschoolers may not have actually filed their paperwork yet, because they're used to it. But the numbers are they're actually a little bit lower than this time last year in terms of the homeschooling piece, so.
I have a couple of curriculum questions for the high school. Are we changing the curriculum at all based on the hybrid structure?
That's a really big question, Denise. So can you be a little
Well,
more
so then
specific?
my follow-up question is how quickly, especially since we're going to the sort of semester, how quickly are we gonna stay on top of whether this model is allowing the kids to be current with where they're supposed to be? So if we get halfway through and they're not, then
What does that
you're
mean?
pretty much out of time at that point. So I'm just curious to know, especially with the
AP classes?
I mean, with AP classes, with some of the higher level classes, but honestly, one of my concerns is not just the lack of time in school, but, I echo one of the people that wrote in that just the amount of face time. So I know that, when you have some of these classes that are, the AP world history and the, calculus, these are not self-driven classes.
Right.
So I'm just wondering, are we gonna have, I know we had progress reports, but by the time we have a progress report, the term's gonna be half over. So how are we gonna say, this is not working, we need to these kids need more time, or this is working fine? I'm just wondering, if we're not changing the curriculum, how are we gonna know in real time whether these kids are gonna, get all the information they need?
Do we want to ask? Yeah, because I believe that we have our high school admin team on, and we also have Shannon on as our curriculum specialist.
So Joe is on.
Yes, we're going to do our very best to get through as much curriculum as possible, but we also realize that we're not going to be able to go as quickly as we have in the past, but we're going to do the very best we can to get through it all, especially for the AP classes. We're assigning additional time to those students so they can move along as quickly as possible.
And the other thing, Denise, I think is that we're going to be doing similar to our weekly protocol checks in terms of our kids, following what they need to do. We'll also be looking at, check-ins pretty regularly with all of our administrators actually on how things are going for our students. Because 6 through, this is a huge change for 6 through 12. So we really need to have that conversation. Oh, we need to talk louder. Okay. Yeah, so do we have a good answer for you? Not exactly, but it's part of the process of like going through this and making sure. I believe strongly that we learned a tremendous amount in the spring when we did this very quickly. We shifted to remote and we learned a lot from our successes and from our less successful time. So I know that our teachers and our administrators are looking at how to improve the practice as best we can.
Another high school question, do we have the option of giving the seniors a late shot at SATs in school?
I don't know that
Joe's
answer.
still unmuted.
Joe is still, do you know anything about the SAT option, Joe?
Yes, we're still looking at that, but it looks like we're going to be able to give our students an opportunity to take the AP exams, definitely.
The seniors?
No, that's AP, he said AP.
Yeah, what about, I think,
SATs.
yeah, we're looking at the
sorry,
SATs
yes.
for seniors.
We're also, we're going to be able to do the SATs as well.
Okay,
In school for the seniors.
Mard, the Director of Guidance.
thank you, Nancy.
We have October 14th scheduled to give the SATs and the PSATs to all juniors for the PSATs and to all seniors who wish to take it. They will have to pay for it because the state is no longer covering it. But October 14th is the date that we currently have slated to allow all seniors to take the SAT if they want and they pay for it, and juniors to take the PSAT.
That's fantastic.
Good news.
Thank you.
Can I bring up a few points? I wanted to say it's great news that York County is in the green, but in the 4 days since I sent everybody a copy of this thing I pulled together, we've had 100 more cases of COVID in the state in just those 4 days, and 12 of those were in York County, and we had 1 death. The domain in general is looking fairly safe in terms of numbers, but as Governor Mills herself said in her most recent statement when she extended the state of emergency, we cannot let our guard down. This deadly virus is still with us, and while I am proud of the progress Maine has made, we are not immune from the surges we have seen in other states. We must all stay vigilant and stay safe. We all know there was a Memorial Day surge here, and there's going to be another one in September. There have been a number of super spreader events, like the motorcycle rally out west. Right now going on in New Hampshire, there's this religious group that's having a massive meeting, and then they're going out into the communities to proselytize, and they said that they're not doing any precautions in terms of masks and so on. That's going to have ripple effects whether or not they personally are in our neighborhood, in part because the Labor Day weekend is upon us as well, and we know that we're going to have out-of-state visitors right on the heels of those spreader events. And that is itself a super spreader event to have them here. We're likely going to have families in the district who also have parties. That's going to have an impact on us. And as of August 8th, the state has returned to the danger zone in terms of crossing infections. At this point, we are at a rate where every person, on average, who has the virus is infecting one other person, and that's on average. So some people may not infect anybody, but others might infect 5. And while we have a plan in this district that is awesome, I really feel strongly that the state of Maine doesn't have the capacity for testing that we need to make the plan work safely for our students. On June 8th, the governor announced expanded testing capabilities to have testing sites within 30 minutes of most of the population, but that's not reality yet. I spent a good bit of time today pretending I needed to get a test. I didn't click through to anybody, didn't want to clog lines, but I went to the websites that the government site provided. I clicked through to the various clinics, and it's totally confusing. I did this in part because I've heard some from personal experiences from people in the community about how the difficulties they had to get their kids tested. It is confusing. There's 2 kinds of tests. The NAAT, which tells you in 15 minutes whether or not you're sick, You don't need a doctor's referral, yay. You don't need insurance. You don't even need to be showing symptoms, which is awesome, because children very often are asymptomatic, right? But you do have to have a $25 fee.
Can we just try to make sure that we're keeping it relevant to the discussion about the plan?
If I am. So that's going to be a problem for some of our families. The other test takes 24 to 48 hours. You do need to get a doctor's referral. That's a problem for some of our families. And it's not so easy to get that referral because there aren't enough of these tests around and they're being rationed. You also need insurance, and if you don't need insurance, you have to fill out the state's COVID insurance coverage application. So it's a lot of steps for some of our families. So, okay, cool, let's send our students to get the NAAT tests. Well, as of this morning, there's no availability at the one location in Range here, York Hospital, until September 20th. It's the middle of August, and you'd have to wait until September 20th. I can't imagine what the wait times are going to be once school starts. So we have essentially no way to get any student who presents a fever or other symptoms to get tested. So what do we tell our families? I mean, Georgia schools are posting this, there's no liability for injury or death of an individual entering these premises if it results from contracting COVID. You're assuming the risk by entering the premises. I mean, that's horrible. So what are we going to do if someone comes in with a fever? It doesn't matter how good our hybrid plan is if we don't have the means to test and get buy-in from all of our families. And we do have that problem with buy-in. Our staff and families know it, which is why we have been getting these letters from staff saying, please, let's start remote. They're the ones who are going to be on the front line. One of the letters cited the Maine Department of Education's numbers, that 72% of educators and 77% of support staff were deeply concerned. I went and read that report. It gets worse. They're even more worried for the students. 82% of teachers and 80% of support staff are highly worried for their students. And the majority of parents, 59%, are worried. Only 3.5 in 10 think their kids will wear masks and do the distancing protocols.
That's true. I'm gonna interrupt, and because I think that all of this is incredibly important information, but I feel like we need to stay.
Okay, then I'll cut to the chase. The point is, hybrid is a guinea pig. We don't know that it's going to work. In fact, there are epidemiologists who are saying, oh my God, what you're doing is you're taking the idea of the cohort and shredding it, because the students aren't just with the cohort during the week in a hybrid setting. They go home, they go to a daycare, they go to other whatever. So you are creating a situation where you don't actually have a cohort. It might work. We don't know. And I don't want this district to be a guinea pig. I propose that we start in remote mode, both to buy us time distance from the super spreader event of Labor Day weekend, and to see what's going on and how it works in other districts that are following the remote model, so that we can adapt and learn the lessons and not endanger our students and our staff in the process. That's really the key that I'm driving at with this. You know that someone's going to show up at school with a fever.
So
They do it all the time. What do we do with that person?
Well, so I think actually,
We talked
yeah, we
Yeah,
can,
the
maybe we can
nurses
revisit, well, and I
protocol.
think, yeah, and I think that there's a little more information on that. I think that these are all good points, and I think that there's certainly ones that everyone's aware of, and I would just, maybe we can revisit what our protocol is, and one of the questions that I wanted to know was, how, if we do start with the hybrid, how do we know when, even if we aren't marked as red, how do we know as a district when we want to change it? The only thing I will say is that getting a test is not that hard. It's really not. Our families had to have a few of them. You just call and you go over. There's the York Hospital ones that are easy. So they may be
hospital one
confusing.
was the one with the September 20th.
It's not, that's just the rapid one. The other one,
Right.
and you get the results in 24 hours.
You have a doctor, you have health insurance.
Actually, a question is, could a child get a referral through the health service here?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that there's a lot. of
Amy's here
information.
somewhere.
I was just
Amy
gonna say,
Crichton's on.
Amy's gonna,
Our nurse who is
Great.
Amy, can you unmute?
there she is. Oh,
Hi.
there she was.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So what do you want me to start with? What question?
Maybe just revisit what the plan is, if a teacher or a student, you know, kind of where we are with, if they're showing symptoms, and then one of the things I wanted to know is what, like, if we're looking at a daily basis, how are we gonna decide as a school, if we have to switch to fully remote? And Sue, you had mentioned there were a couple of key pieces of data that we were watching that I think are really
Sure.
helpful.
So we're going to look at daily attendance for both staff and students. And we're going to be looking at daily compliance regarding the expectations that we have around social distancing and masking and all that stuff. And if it spikes in any direction, you know, we're going to be talking about making a change.
Yeah.
And those are two very simple data points because we can measure those every single day.
Yeah. And Amy, can you just maybe remind everybody what the protocol is if, you know, if somebody is ill or, you know, and then also can you just confirm if the health services here can give a referral to get a test, can act as if somebody doesn't have a primary care, I guess?
Okay, so I'll start with some exciting news. The Maine American Academy of Pediatrics came out with a more detailed flow chart on last week, Thursday or Friday, I believe, with a list of symptoms to go by if a student or staff presents to their school nurse. I think this information will be going out shortly. It went out to staff today. So we have it listed as if we see a student or staff with one of the lower risk symptoms, and they are qualifying their list of lower risk symptoms as headache, malaise, which is like body aches, a runny nose or congestion, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, or any of those symptoms present beyond typical allergies. So if they've got two or more of those lower risk symptoms, or if they have one of the higher risk symptoms, which they list as a new uncontrolled cough, shortness of breath or difficulty breathing, not exercise-induced asthma, new loss of taste or smell, a fever of 100.4 or higher, chills, shakes, or a sore throat. So if they have one of those symptoms or two of the other ones, and they have not been exposed to anyone with COVID-19, then we will send them home and suggest that they be seen by their physician. And then whether there's different pathways, if a swab was done and if it was negative, if they were seen by their physician and no swab was done and they got like an alternative diagnosis, maybe they have strep throat or such. And then if there was a positive test, we would follow the 10 days out and don't return until 24 hours of no symptoms and no fever. These people would also need to be cleared by the Maine CDC because they will be followed by them. I think they contact you and say your case has now been resolved. And then there is the case if the parent or staff member refused to be seen, then they would still need to stay out for the 10 days, 24 hours and such. Okay. And then as far as getting a referral, we do have our medical director who is affiliated with York Hospital. I could be in contact with her. And we don't currently have another nurse practitioner working at the health center right now, so she would be my default.
Okay. I have another question, different topic. How are we looking staffing? I know there was some concerns about whether we would be able to get support. I don't know if it was facilities or transportation, and then are we looking at hiring teachers? And basically, how are we looking overall staffing?
Sure. We do have a few positions advertised right now for staffing, but that teaching staff, but that is due to not this per se, but due to other things. They're either transferring to other positions or something to that effect, so not directly related to this. We have hired a few custodial staff, some temporary positions as well. We're also talking with a cleaning service to come in and do some of that help on a daily basis in the elementary schools. So we're doing that. We do have advertisements out for bus monitors, and there are applicants for those positions. And we have cafeteria like monitors. We have several applicants for those, and they're viable candidates.
Yep.
So.
And in terms of accommodations, the folks that have reached out to us, so we've been meeting with, so I think I'm at like 45 different people that we've been meeting with ed techs, the whole 9 yards. The majority of those are returning to work with increased PPE. So there are not a lot of people who are feeling like they can't return to work. And for those that are have medical issues and that we can deal with, we are working out remote situations for them. So, okay, so we can hear typing and it is going over the sound. So anybody typing besides me? And I'm not even on, so, okay.
I have a question.
Sure.
Maybe I misunderstood, but explain it to me again. I understood that, at least for the high school, those 4 days the kids were going to be at home. They were like if they have math at 9 o'clock, they're on their computer at 9 o'clock doing their math, but not with the teacher or with the teacher.
They're on for 2 days.
They are on for 2 days, right? And that's because our teachers at the high school level teach multiple subjects and multiple grade levels, so they're working that whole situation out about.
But I mean, like your teacher has a math class at 9 o'clock. Juniors and seniors together. It's the same time.
Right.
They're going to have different group of kids in the school at the same time.
Right.
So the kids that are not in school that day can't access.
They may not be able to access them directly at that time frame. So, and Allie and Joe have a better handle, honestly, on the whole pieces of the schedule. So I'm going to ask them to be able to help with that. But for the way that it's set up, and I did actually put it, this is also in that group, that admin response to the similar question. But there's Joe.
Yes. We'll have to repeat those lessons on another day when those students are face-to-face.
Can you elaborate on that?
So if we had 10th and 11th graders in the same math class, those teachers would present that same face-to-face information on 2 different days.
Because we do have those groups that are ranging.
So it sounds like, Nancy, I think the teachers are gonna have to teach the same class.
That I figured,
Yeah.
But
And then
I thought there would be more access from the kids at home during that 9 o'clock math slot. But then you'd have to have somebody videotape the teacher, and that wouldn't work.
there's multiple layers to it for sure. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I just have to say that I feel real strongly that we need to give the parents a choice. I think the parents know their kids better than anybody else. I think if a parent thinks their kid needs to be in school to learn, I think that we need to give them that choice. And if we find people aren't wearing masks or people are sick or whatever, we have to deal with that on an individual basis. I have a real hard problem just saying to everyone, oh, we're going remote. And have the teachers been preparing for remote all summer, or are they preparing to do the hybrid model?
They've been doing both, honestly, because we knew that this would be a very
Okay,
because
it sounded like we were headed hybrid, and all these teachers, I would have thought if it had been me, I would have been like, okay, let's do the hybrid thing, and then, oh no.
I feel confident. I feel confident that either model, our teachers are ready to implement. I think that's fair.
Part of the reason I'm harping on the starting with remote is information known about COVID is still shifting, and there are a number of papers that are currently they're still being reviewed by fellow scientists, so they cannot be put out there, but they are pointing to very clear evidence that it's not just a question of droplets, that this stuff can actually travel in the air, which puts the whole 6-foot rule out the window, as it were. And in fact, part of the problem with that then is air conditioning. For example, there was a restaurant where a person went who had the virus. Only families seated across the restaurant who were exposed to air vents from where that person was sitting got sick. Nobody else did. Not the servers, not the other customers. It came to them through the air conditioning system. That's kind of important to know.
So, if I recall from the last meeting, you guys had a company come in and do a ventilation survey, right?
Yep.
And what was the outcome of that?
I was gonna say Kevin is on, but so it's Specialty Services that does our HVAC work, and they've gone to every building, they've made recommendations. We've talked about, with them, they've talked about keeping the circulation going, so our fans are blowing a certain way, doors to classrooms are open, so that you're getting that circulation going through the entire building. Air quality tests have been done. We have not failed an air quality test in our rooms, in our buildings.
But the very fact that the air is circulating through the whole building might end up actually being an issue if the droplets are in fact a carrier.
And that's why we have masks on our face.
But they're not enough.
Spread that.
So
That
can we,
means
I
that
was
the
gonna say, do
droplets
we have any
are on all the
other?
surfaces throughout the time you're in that space.
Go ahead, Joey.
Joanne?
I shared a document where it kind of gets very.
I can barely hear you.
Yeah.
I'm having a hard time hearing tonight too. I shared a document with board members, but I'm afraid to get buried in with other emails. It was the COVID-19 help from the COVID-19 Healthcare Coalition. And a friend of mine works at MITRE, and they were a big part of this study that was done. And she shared it with me the day that the white paper was released. And what it does, it gives us guidance as to, we look at our situation and our 3 communities, and we figure out what's best for us. We don't care, well, we do care, but it doesn't really matter to us what's happening in Boston or New York or any place else. We need to care about what's happening in our district, in our 3 towns, and we need to look at the criteria of how it's affecting our students, how it's affecting our parents, the emotional stress and strain it's having on our students, and the importance that getting our kids back into the school system. And I mean, these are all the people that wrote this document. They're the ones that have been in the midst of this since the very beginning. So this, to me, I would take this information over just about anybody else that's out there. And they do recommend, they say, you've got to look at your own situation. And I'm looking toward our administrators, the facilities people. They know what the conditions of our buildings are. They know what we need to do to keep our students safe. Nobody wants to put anybody in harm's way. And I think we can do this. I think the hybrid plan that everyone has come up with is a doable plan. And we're going to change things if we need to. It's not set in stone that this is how we're going to go for the next 5 months. We're going to look at the data as Audra had presented to us at a previous meeting. We're going to reevaluate. We're going to see what's going on, and then we're going to change course if we need to, or we're going to keep going ahead. But the important thing is getting these kids back in school, getting the kids that need the special services, whether it is even just coming in to get a meal, getting the kids back in school. I think we need to move forward with the plan that the administration has brought towards us. I think it's an excellent plan, and I think it's worth us getting behind and supporting.
Joanne, I just found your email and just brought it to the beginning of everyone's inbox again. I just forwarded it out again.
All I'm saying, Joanne, is remote for 2 weeks and reassess. give the holiday time to pass us with all the communities, but people are going to be passing through our communities because of the holiday.
So I'm trying to find it, but I can't get it right now. Last time I looked, our 3 communities had maybe, I'm gonna just rough guess it, but I can't pull it up right now. 40 people most.
Yeah.
With COVID active throughout this whole process.
Yeah.
That's not active right now. I can't tell you how many we have active right now, but our 3 towns have been very small. The whole state has been very small, which is a good thing for us, right? But I get that one person can cause 100 people, but we have plans in place to try and adjust that and try and minimize that. But we have to focus on everything, not just this one little thing. And there's so much that goes involved in this whole process that we have, and I know we have, not just us, but the admin team and everybody has accounted for this whole process. And all that we can do is do what we have done, and we have given them options. We have given people the option to go remote if they want. We have clarified tonight that they can go remote or they can go hybrid and switch to remote, or vice versa. So we've given them the options that they need to get this process going on our end. The statistics that we're seeing from our people are pretty clear, from our constituents are pretty clear that 82% of them want to go back to school, want to go back to high school.
It's flawed, I'm sorry.
And a majority of them are telling us we want to go back. Our teachers a majority of them are telling us we want to go back. Of course, every single one of us, I've been a parent of kids in school. I've got concerns about sending my kids to school, but they've also been active this summer, and we've had 0 issues, right? I get that tomorrow we could have an issue, things change. That's why we're gonna reassess this on a week-to-week basis. And if those parents that don't feel comfortable with a hybrid model, they have the option to go remote if they wanna go remote. I don't think we should take away an option for our families. If our families, we give them our 2 options, I feel strongly that we should go hybrid with the option if they want to go remote. If they don't want to go remote, if they don't want to go hybrid, they can go remote, that's their choice.
Will you come in and teach for those kids then?
Yeah.
The teachers have the same
The
option.
teachers had 2 questions to answer.
And I was a part of those questions, I read those questions, they had the options.
They had to put their names to it too.
Well, they should, because.
We have to have contact.
All right.
Yeah,
Here's what I would like to do. I would like to.
Denise Rebecca would like to
I know
chat.
Rebecca wants to talk. I would love to hear from everybody, just sort of to make sure that everybody has a voice, but we let you kind of go through your thing, so everybody has their own opinion, so
But
let's
I just want to stress that all I'm doing is saying, let's delay 2 weeks, that's it.
Astrida, we all have views that need to be heard. So we hear the proposal there is to delay 2 weeks, so heard. And Rebecca, if you want to go, and then I want to make sure that we hear from Stephanie and Linda also.
Yeah, I just want to say that I know you did a survey of the teachers, but it wasn't anonymous, right? So everybody had it. It was basically, as far as I understand, if you don't have a reason, like you're not on the CDC list of conditions where you really can't go in, like you have lupus or something, you have to go back because the parents want to go back. And, initially I was in favor of the hybrid plan because I was viewing it more as a logistical problem, but I think that the more I've thought about it and the more I've seen happening in other districts, and I know, Maine is different, but I think then they have a case up in Piscataquis County, and that's pretty rural. We don't have any boundaries. People can come into the state at any time. They can come up from Florida or Texas or whatever. We're not immune by any stretch of the imagination. And we're still having like 1,000 people a day in this country dying from this thing. And I feel like at my job, we had to go back on June 29th if we didn't have a condition. It was either, you go back or you lose your job, basically. I don't want to put another worker in that position, and I feel like we're putting the teachers in that position. And I think they feel obligated to because they're dedicated to to educating kids, which is admirable, but I don't think that you should put them in the position of having to put their health on the line for that, when their job can be done remotely. And so, I mean, I'm at this point leaning in favor of remote, even more than 2 weeks. I'm much more worried we're gonna have a second wave, and just the news and everything has made me feel very much more pessimistic about it, the way it's being handled. I know people say you can get tests, but I don't think the tests are that easy to get, and you have to be motivated to go get one. And some of the working families in our district just don't have the wherewithal to do that. They're just trying to get by. So that's just my 2 cents about it, and that's how I feel. And I'm inclined to vote with Estrida about, at least at the very beginning, to start remotely. Maybe if things change, we can change that, but I want to err on the side of caution.
So can you talk a little bit about, I think that maybe more happened with the sort of conversation with teachers than is immediately apparent. So you had said that, it's not just if you yourself has a condition, like there's a process. So maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
I mean, I
You
think
guys have done more than people realize.
Right, so what we did was we did have 2 questions on the survey. There's no question about that. We did ask for names, because if somebody's asking for an accommodation, we need to know who that is, so we know who we need to, work through with. We had people sign off that they needed accommodations, not just for themselves, but because they're living with somebody at the home that has an immunocompromised situation, or they're caring for somebody, a parent in their 90s. So we certainly have seen the gamut of staff talking with us about different pieces, whether it be their own or somebody in their family. We also, if they weren't necessarily responding to that questionnaire survey right away, they also had an opportunity to talk to the building administration or the union representative. So then, so that's kind of where we're at. So we feel everybody that had that level of concern for somebody in their family or for themselves was able to reach out to either at the building level, the union level, or through that survey. Linda.
We've heard it a couple of times, and I've seen it in some of the emails, and you just said it again. And we've had the opportunity to, express their concern to the union. Have we gotten a response from the union, any, one way or the other?
Jamie's here, and she's the president of the union. They've actually been with us right along through this whole thing, working through the process. Yep. I will tell you that we did not ask the question, should we come back or should we not come back to school? We did not ask our teachers if we should return. This is a hugely polarizing situation that we're in, and it's not here just in MSAD 60, it's throughout the country. We understand how hard it is. We don't have the right answer. We have the answer currently that we felt was best for kids. Like, that's what we're presenting to you because of that, in terms of just getting our kids back and making connections with their teachers. We are probably just as conflicted as every one of you. And I know that our teachers are as conflicted. And I wish that we had a better ability to just say, this is the right thing to do. I think we are going by the fact that we are a green state, a green county, and the hybrid model for us made the most sense for that indication from our government, from our state government. Do we all have concerns? Absolutely. Do we want to do the best thing that we can do right this minute? Yes. And I wish that I had a stronger conviction, I guess, one way or the other, to be honest with you. If you were to ask me alone, I just want to see kids. I want to get adults who are not necessarily their parents
with them because everybody needs other adults in their lives, and I want the education process to try to move forward. But we will do whatever this board, and I hate to put that burden on you, but I think that is kind of the deal. We will do to our best ability whatever you think we should do. And it could change in 24 hours. That's the problem.
I have a question. Have you played around with the numbers at all on how many teachers you're going to need for these cohort groups for the remote kids? And does that match up with the number of staff that are going to be teaching remote? If that makes sense.
It does make sense, and we are working through that because we're still getting, we haven't met through all of our staff yet for those that said they need accommodations.
We have I have 20 more meetings probably in the next 2 days, just to meet with staff members. Currently, it's matching up
pretty
well, and and we may have to make some adjustments just to work with families and with staff members. But currently, we're in a pretty reasonable.
And how big do you think these cohort groups will be? Any idea?
So
something like a regular size classroom.
Yeah,
it would be.
Like maybe like 20, which is a little higher than our 13 or 14, but.
Yeah, we're pulling numbers right now of how many folks are remote versus hybrid choices, and yeah, I think they're reasonable.
So would there be a possibility, well, this will mess up the regular school schedule, if you needed more cohort coordinators, whatever we're calling them? More of the people could maybe be on a list saying, I'd be willing to.
We actually have a list of teachers that if the option were to be remote.
Brilliant minds work.
Yes, we have that option. We definitely have several teachers who said, if I could be remote, I would like to do that. I don't have a particular medical condition myself, but there's, the other part of this, guys, is childcare issues. We have a lot of childcare issues for our staff who are living in other districts, and that remote or hybrid plan doesn't match up with our hybrid plan. So this isn't just about the medical piece, it's also about just childcare and families in general. I mean, it's just like it's impacting every resident who has children in school, it's impacting all of our staff who have children of school age. It's super complicated.
Yeah.
I assume that even though that survey or questionnaire went out, the staff still has the option to make some changes from this point forward if things have changed.
Yes.
They're not committed to whatever they answered on that survey. If something changes and they need to look at other options, they can reach out to you guys and make other options.
Right, we will do our very best to accommodate the needs of our staff. I mean, I don't know that there's anybody out there who would say that we haven't been trying really hard to meet people's needs. However, there are a group of folks in every building, I'm sure, who are philosophically really struggling with coming back. I get that.
Can we hear it from Jamie? I'd love to hear what Jamie has to say.
Oh, Jamie.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Jamie.
So it was a great year to take over as president.
And superintendent.
I hear you.
Yeah. So Audra and I are going to go eat lots of steak in a few weeks. We have been in contact as an association with the MEA as much as we possibly can, pretty much a couple times a week, if not more, regarding their guidance on what's happening. Unfortunately, as you all know, there's really no precedence for what's going on right now. In regards to staff and how staff are feeling, Sue is absolutely correct in the fact that our staff right now is incredibly polarized. Based on the feedback that I'm getting right now, there seems to be the largest concern at the high school level. And I do know that there were a couple letters that were presented to school board members. And although the association didn't write those letters, we can't ignore that there are underlying concerns which they present, and that it may in fact represent an even greater population or number of staff members at Noble High School. So we're looking at that, and we're talking with Sue, and I'm reaching out every week and trying to encourage members to please contact us if you need accommodations. We can meet with Sue, we can meet with Audra and Eva, and we can work through those processes. And Travis, I really appreciate the question that you just asked about, can staff change their mind? Because that, I think, is a fair question. So I appreciate that, and I was happy to hear Sue's answer. And I really do believe very strongly that the district is willing to work with us as much as they possibly can to support teachers in this. It's not easy. And again, Sue said it perfectly. It's incredibly polarizing. I will say, you know, as we're a little looking at a little bit more of our highest, our most vulnerable population at the high school. We're watching this situation really closely to make sure that class sizes are staying small, and we are, talking with Sue and Audra about that, and checking out space limits 6 feet apart, following CDC guidelines very specifically. And tomorrow, as a matter of fact, we have a meeting with them to go over working condition accommodations to the contract. So, I mean, we're definitely on it. I don't know if I've answered your question or if you have any other questions for me. We're trying to reach out to staff as much as we possibly can. And I'm on the phone pretty much all day, every day. And I also am in contact with other presidents from York County. Did I answer that question, Travis?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Jamie.
Yeah.
Linda or Stephanie, did either of you guys have any other sort of thoughts that you wanted to put out there?
I've gone back and forth a couple of times, but I think I just want to agree with what you said. And Travis said is, if all we put forth was just a hybrid model and that was it, I would be saying no. But because we're giving parents that option, and we are to say, no, I'm not going to, as a parent, I'm going to go remote. And the ability to be able to, and you guys answered very well, yeah, I start out remote for the first couple of weeks, things either go one way or the other, and I can change my mind, contact the school, may take a couple of weeks, but I can make the adjustment for my child. Or either way, I put my child in, I don't know, I just can't sleep at night, whatever. I'm going to call the school and pull them into remote. I think because we're offering both of those options and the amount of work the administration has done to literally tree out everything that possibly could happen, I think that be able to the parents to give them some options as well to choose one way or the other. They want to go hybrid or they want to go remote. As long as there's no restrictions on their choice, they should have the ability to choose as well.
For my part, I was worried about our decision, more thinking with the, like I said, with the survey, making some parents feel like they had to enter that hybrid mode because they couldn't commit to the 4 months of remote, and having to make that decision knowing that they probably didn't want their kid to go, and I'm hearing, multiple things with that, made me uncomfortable. But after hearing tonight that those parents can switch to remote before school starts if they want, knowing what they know now with the date and everything, I'm still conflicted in a few spaces because I say, geez, it's only 2 weeks. Everything's been so screwed up as it is. I don't see what's 2 more weeks going to do, but I'm also, that one thing does make me feel more comfortable that they can switch. So if the parents have signed up for, hybrid, and that's what they want to do, I think it's their personal choice for them and their kids and what's best for their house. So I guess, even though I do have a mixture of feelings, I would lean more that way.
I have a few more clarifying questions over the plan that was presented to us tonight before we really go any further. I gotta say, I like we've kind of added a 1 week buffer in there for us with this plan that I don't want people to forget about. But we're really we're saying school's gonna start September 8th, but in reality, for everybody, it's gonna start September 14th, from
And
what I'm
the
seeing.
8th was already a week later than what it was
Correct,
originally
correct.
going to, so we.
Right.
Correct. But, so my question in regards to that orientation plan that was presented tonight, I don't know if you can just put it, are you able to put that back up again, just so people kind of
You can do it, Audra.
in live land can kind of see it as I asked the question? That if they missed it earlier?
You're really taxing me, Travis.
You have to share your screen again.
If you can't,
Look, here comes Chris. He's here to help.
Here it comes. Here comes Rick.
Somebody asked, maybe one of the people that wrote in asked, like, what can they do at home in preparation? And I know we can't ask people to do a 2-week quarantine, but I think that awareness around the 2 weeks before school starts of really kind of laying low, sticking close to home would be an incredible service to the overall
I heard a cute way to get your kids used to wearing masks is whenever they have screen time, they have to wear their masks.
Yes. I mean,
So either they'll get
these
used
kids have been wearing
to
this.
it quick, or they'll be doing no screen
Yeah.
time. One or the
But
other.
they've also been wearing them.
And they're adjusting, I mean,
They're
I
already,
have a 3-year-old granddaughter, and I thought, there is no way in heck we are gonna get her. But slowly, over time, a few minutes at a time, now we can take her places, and she's like, oh, I gotta put my mask on, right? And she's 3. And she'll put it on and whatnot, and again, it wasn't, I don't know, compare this with little kids, but it wasn't much different than potty training. It was, we got to avoid the first couple of times, and now because her older brothers are doing it, when they go anywhere, she knows, I gotta get, and they make them fun, we get to, you know what I mean? So we don't want to have to do that, but it's a reality.
what was your question?
So my question in regards to the orientation is, looking at this, we're still expecting our teachers to be there every day, no matter whether they're there or not, right? For the grade levels that they're supposed to be there. And we got a parent appointment only for kindergarten on September 8th. Are we allowing parents, are we doing a parent open house like we've done in years past for these other grades?
Probably
Or
not.
not?
Right now.
Probably not.
No.
Just because of the number of people
Yep.
coming in, because one child usually brings 2 adults or more
Yep.
with them to a parent night, so.
So, just so people understand the orientation for these grades are just for the kids that day.
Yes, yeah.
And-
So the kindergarten by appointment does not have a parent with
No,
them?
they-
Well, no, that one would
That
just.
one does.
That one does.
That one does.
Dropping off your 5-year-old probably doesn't work out.
You've got district kindergarten coming on the 9th. Are they coming as the 10th, the 11th too, or are they just the 8th and the 9th?
Just
They're just the 8th and the
9th.
9th, and then they come back the 14th.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then everything is live on the 14th,
Mhm.
Right,
ready
Yes.
to go.
Yes.
Okay,
So we're technically not going live to education until the 14th.
pretty much. The first week is orientation for all of those transitional pieces
Walking
in
through
the elementary.
hallway, yeah, walking through the hallways, using one way, the distancing, washing your hands, how to put on a mask, how to take off a mask, keeping it on.
Put arrows on the floor like.
And
we do at the
nothing in person
supermarket.
for 10 through 12, so that's
Right.
600, 700 kids who are not going to be entering these buildings.
But we can
Are we
certainly,
sending them something to, like for expectations of, like, what is an appropriate mask?
yes, we have that in the document that's going out tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
okay, that was one of my next big
Yeah.
questions.
Can we get that
We need to be a
Yes.
little more transparent with our families. We need to start giving them some ideas of what our actual day is gonna look like on a day-to-day business, a day-to-day activity as much as we can. And that's gonna change every single day for the most part, but as much as we can, we gotta start getting stuff out to our parents.
Yeah, I got 2 parents, separate parents who asked the same thing. Are we still gonna, if I chose remote, am I still gonna get a list of what my child needs to have present before they start, in our home, before they start
Mhm.
remote learning, like notebooks, things like that? I haven't gotten any class list yet.
Right, because we haven't even made our cost list yet. That's the
And I said,
problem. We're still waiting to hear.
Right.
I'm sure that's coming, but yeah, that would
Yeah.
be good, and to put all that information
Yeah.
together.
So our administrators are actually just waiting for the decision in terms of like, what are we sending what are we sending out for a plan? And then we can follow up with all of the documentation that goes with that plan, because obviously each of them is a little bit different. And as soon as we have that, they'll be, you know, working 100 miles an hour trying to get all the details out.
And then I know that every grade is probably different, you know, letters and different information, of course. So is all of that gonna be available on the website?
I hope
On
so.
the school web pages, yes.
So that if somebody comes up and asks,
Yes.
you can refer them and say, if you lost the letter or got misplaced in the mail,
Yeah.
you can go to the website and find your child's grade.
Right. And historically, under the teacher web pages, at least at the elementary level, it lists if they have specific supplies for that classroom, it will list that. Sometimes the grade level will just say, we need, you know, one subject notebooks or something. And sometimes, like in kindergarten, it's like, just bring them, you know, bring your child.
Bring your child.
Child come and with a couple snacks.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
So, knowing now that we have some of our data in, when do you guys project to be able to start releasing, my kid is in this class and they need this supply? Because that is probably the biggest question I'm seeing right now.
I do know that at the elementary level, they are working very hard on class lists.
And Patty just texted me, we are aware, this is from Lebanon, we are aware that it's short notice and won't be asking for lots of supplies. So I think as soon as we get the class list made up, the information will go out. Which it's.
And they're almost
so probably
done.
by the end of the week, honestly, the way that they're rolling.
Yes, and they had to call all those families we hadn't heard from before they adjusted lists if they needed to.
What is our projected class size that we're hoping to stay at? Is it 13, I think I heard once? I could be wrong.
Let me look at our numbers.
But
Well, I think it's gonna vary, but
I think every room could be different.
right, and like some at Huzzy, just because we know that's my frame of reference, the easiest way to talk. Some of those classes are gonna have 8 or 9.
Correct.
Right. So, and then some up here can hold a little more than that.
Are we following the 6 or
We're following?
the 6, or are we following the 3, or are we following the 4? What are we trying to stick with?
At the elementary level, we're looking at no less than 4
And at the upper levels, it's 6.
for
Because
the
we're big,
adults. Yeah,
they're big people. You know, they're normal size adults.
And we're sticking with requiring the masks, right?
Absolutely.
After a few of the questions tonight, I just was making
That's
sure
okay.
we're all on that page,
Yeah.
okay?
Right, are we all gonna put in the information too, that there's gonna be the mask breaks? Because I got questions about what exactly can you illustrate what a mask break is? So when we send that information home to parents, does that go with it as well?
We will make sure that it's, yeah.
What is recess gonna look like if we're in our plan?
Outside till it's sleet.
Well, exactly. But I know
And then
outside,
we
but
just
with
let
no
it.
time.
we're trying to do the social distancing thing. Are these kids gonna be able to interact with your kids, or are they just gonna go stand
They
in a
said
little
it's with
bubble
the, I
outside?
think they went over that, it's gonna be with their cohort, and like they can go outside, and I think it's different at different ages, but they'll be outside with, kind of within their cohort, and be able to have some, if that's one of the mask break
Don't they have a
times.
quadrant they have to stay in, or
Yeah.
they stay a certain area?
Right.
And they have-
You can't play with your across the
classes,
hall buddy, but.
Yeah,
And they'll have equipment for their class.
Okay.
They won't be sharing it at the grade level.
So it's classes that will be able to interact with their own class.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And be able to have interactions and not just be standing there like, hey,
Yes.
Johnny,
Right.
6 feet over.
Well, we hope. I mean, and then here's the thing. It's just gonna look very different, right, than what they're typically expecting. So I think, again, this is a work in progress. We're gonna be figuring this out as it goes along. We're gonna probably start in that very conscious social distancing piece, and then we're gonna move from there. Phys ed classes currently, they are recommending that if you're out in a PE class and you are unmasked so that you can actually be active, it's like 14 feet apart.
Yes.
So,
No sharing of equipment.
and no sharing of equipment. So
How do you play field soccer?
there's a lot of problem with that. So all of these things are things that our folks are trying to work through.
I've been coaching baseball for the last month or 2 now, I don't remember now. But we've done the masks, we've done social distancing, it's not gonna be easy.
It's not
to
easy.
keep these kids separate, because it wasn't easy for me
Mhm.
to keep them separate, and it didn't happen all the time.
We
We
understand
also
that.
had zero issues with that aspect either, but we're gonna have some hiccups along the way. The kids are gonna wanna play with the kids, they're doing it now, in summertime, kids are getting together and playing with other groups
Well,
of kids on a
just-
regular basis.
Right, in general, daycares and programs, summer programming they have different standards than what they're asking for us in our world. So, and that's a little bit changing. They're trying to sort of mesh it a little bit more with what the schools are doing. But yeah, so there's definitely, there's just a lot. This is a lot.
Right.
This is a lot. What we're doing, no matter what we do, remote or in hybrid, is a lot.
I really like this orientation plan because you've got one class in the building. You can take them everywhere and show where everything is. There's no other kids.
Yeah, and this makes me feel even more
Yeah.
comfortable with that aspect of moving these kids around to different schools and allowing them to have that freedom of one day of going in and looking and seeing what this school is all about before I gotta go in there with everybody that's in there with all these added safety measures that need to be followed on a day-to-day basis.
So
It makes me feel more comfortable.
I like this, I think it's great. I don't personally see any reason that the 10 through 12 shouldn't be having their own remote orientation. And, you know, I don't see why, I don't have any idea why they wouldn't do that. So, and then my 2 cents on all the rest of it is one thing that we haven't talked about is the fact that we don't currently have the technology set up to start kindergartners off remote. So if we went to a remote, they don't.
Right,
We
we currently don't, the devices physically are not able to be shipped here until, I think Chris shared with us, like, early to mid-September.
Yeah.
And then there's a whole process that goes with that, so it honestly will be October-ish before everything's put where it needs to be, and unfortunately, probably second week of October. So that's concerning.
Yeah, so that's a big thing. My thoughts on the rest of it are we have given families full, choice to do what is right for them. I think that we've done the best accommodations that we can for teachers. I have seen the incredible impact that remote learning had on kids, that I sort of think of as a silent majority, which is there are a tremendous number of kids, K through 12, that, struggled with social emotional, they struggled with, this is not different learning styles, these are kids that struggle, they're smart kids, they're everything in between, and I've seen how incredibly challenging that was for so many kids, and those kids are not ones that are going to speak up and complain about it. They are not ones that are going online and talking about it. They just sort of took it, and I just think I feel for those kids, and my preference is that, and I feel like I've struggled over both sides of this for however long we've been talking about it, but I feel like we've come up with a very solid plan given the numbers and data that is in front of us. And as long as we have a plan and really the confidence to switch to remote if we need to, I would much rather have us get these kids going for so many reasons. And then, if it's a weekend and we have to switch, then we switch. It's not a failure. It's how the plan is going. But I would much rather look at all of the data that's in front of us currently where we are and make that decision with an incredibly solid plan in place to make a change should we need to. Those are all my notes.
With what Denise said at first, I've got to agree with her that I think the high school grades should have some sort of orientation or start their school, remote
get
school
going.
day on the 8th, something, there's no reason why they
Yeah.
can't get going. Whether it's a brief orientation aspect, or it's a full-blown, the 8th is we start running with our remote learning. I don't see why they can't, or why they shouldn't, because these guys need to get going as well.
I would just like to say that if we open in remote mode in the very beginning and then reassess and look around and see how that's worked in the hybrid model for other districts, if it turns out, looking back, that we were overly cautious, nobody was hurt. If we do open in hybrid mode and someone dies, that's on us. And we're gonna have to live with that for the rest of our days.
I hear you with that, and I keep going back to that in my head, and that's probably what's led me from going back and forth this whole time. I do think it's very smart to watch and see how other districts do. But, and this is the only thing that's kind of got me tipped over the other way, it's just, why should we say to the parent, well, you know, what you want for your kid doesn't matter? You know, I guess that's how I'm trying to look at it, of the parent, is the parent's personal choice, them and their children. If they felt like that, they should be keeping them home.
If this were an expulsion hearing, we would be making a choice that the parent might not agree with, because it's our responsibility to look out for the safety of the entire school.
But our responsibility is to all the children, and some children are really struggling with,
I'm talking 2 weeks.
I'm talking about kids that really need to be here emotionally. They have to be in school with their peers, because it's been so hard. You know, what if a kid committed suicide because they just couldn't stand it anymore? They needed to get back to the normal, and once again, you push it back. So you can look at it. I understand what you're saying, Streeter, but you can look at that from both sides. I think it's
And Joanne, that's not a hypothetical, that is,
Oh, I know.
that's,
I know.
that's real.
So I think we really need to just move forward with this plan, and we'll, if we find that we do have a spike and we need to change things, we'll do that. But I think this is the best plan to start.
We're giving them the option, that's what it really boils down to. If we were to say, we're going hybrid and you're coming with us,
Yeah.
then that's a problem, but we're not.
Exactly.
I feel that if we say, we're going remote and you're coming with us, that's the same problem as us doing it, we're going hybrid and you're coming with us.
Yeah.
We give them the option to go hybrid or remote, let them make the choice.
Yeah, we have to, some responsibility lays with the parents
Mhm.
as well, but, you know, they have to make the final choice.
Do we feel like we are ready to, make a motion?
I just have one more quick question. I couldn't absorb what was said before about the kindergarten.
We don't have the technology in place, so if we went remote, we don't have the tablets for the kindergartners in-house right now, so there would be no technology for them to be doing remote learning.
Oh, if it was like the full red mode?
No, if we just started in a fully remote, if we started on
For the
September 8th,
Okay.
for any amount of time,
Okay.
there's nothing for those kindergartners to have at home. They basically would be out of school.
Well,
Or
let's
whatever.
be, our kindergarten teachers would put together packets and they'd have a different type of an experience remotely
Right.
than the first graders who have their tablets. So
To take homework, it just wouldn't,
Yeah.
they wouldn't have the technology to do
Okay.
any kind of online.
our K would,
that for a second, that makes a lot
Or
more
the
sense.
visuals with the teachers.
Right,
They
right.
wouldn't have that connection.
right, it would be different, right?
Yeah, just nowadays.
So the ones that, this is just for the 2 weeks, and the ones at home who signed up for remote are still gonna be able to do that, it's just that if it was a full force.
Well, so even the little guys that are starting remote, we don't necessarily have the technology available to them yet. So that's
Oh,
going to be,
okay.
that is something that teachers will be working with them until all the pieces come in. I mean, that's just the fact that this pandemic has created quite a need for technology, and so things are where they're at in terms of.
I just wanna make sure I understand.
Yep, nope, clear,
Okay,
yep,
so,
that's clear.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Does somebody want to make a motion to begin the school year September 8th with the hybrid plan? Is that hybrid?
We did that our last meeting. I think.
Hybrid meaning,
We
well, actually, so
Did
then
we
we
read the plan at the last meeting? but we did not, we kind of didn't deal with the start date.
So we did the date on we did a date of when school would start.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm wondering is if we
Yep.
if we already approved this plan,
And I understood that was so that the state could see that we had signed off on it, so they could sign off on it.
Yes.
Different from which plan are we going to pick to start with?
well, we didn't have a remote plan presented to us. We had a hybrid plan presented. So we can do a motion just so that it's sort of on the record.
Yeah, I think it's good for clarity, so that we can move forward and then our administrators can push it forward.
So I'll make a motion that we move forward with the hybrid plan in place with the remote option for those who wish. With the orientation plan presented to us tonight, started on September 8th, with the full hybrid plan being implemented on September 14th.
And I'll second that motion.
That was a really long motion.
It was. I was like, did I get it all? All right.
So, Rebecca, we will just need a verbal from you. And we can do, I guess, just all in favor?
Do we have a way of logging Lynn's opinion?
Wait, okay,
So,
no. What's the motion again?
discussed it during the
Yeah.
discussion part, but she's not here for the vote part.
Yeah, so Rebecca, the motion is to begin September 8th in a hybrid model with a remote option for those families that have chosen to do that. Yep, and the orientation piece.
The orientation with the full-blown hybrid started on the 14th.
All right. So I guess we would do all in favor of you seconded it?
I second.
Okay, so those in favor?
Do roll call.
And then you gotta
And then those, so we have that, and then opposed?
All right.
What is your
She's got her hand up. She's an opposed, okay,
Okay.
all right. Okay.
I think we can all agree that there is no easy answer, and there's no one correct answer.
Yeah, we've never done this before, so it's.
Nobody's ever done it before, so.
And I will say to you all, we have 3 weeks till school begins. And in that 3-week timeframe, we will be watching things every single day. And we will bring it back to you if we're concerned, more concerned than we are right now in terms of it. We're not gonna just plow through this without your consideration if things change.
So I don't know what the proper way is of like keeping us informed without having to call a full-blown meeting. I'm not sure what the right protocol is, but
Do you want a weekly email update?
that'd be great.
Yeah,
Just a weekly?
just a weekly update.
If we do that, we can't have a discussion back
Right,
and forth.
right.
That would be something from our superintendent, and then we just, if we have a question, we can call her, but we can't.
Yes.
And if we find that there's a need for a broader discussion, then we can call a meeting. And it sounds like if it's just one agenda item, we have a little bit of a shorter turnaround. So-
And, right, and if we, as soon as we hear anything that's concerning to us, we would call a meeting for you guys anyway. So, because you are the final say.
So we won't be meeting until that first Thursday in September, is that what the?
Well, we have,
It's a super goal.
Huh?
Like, that's a goal.
So we're not meeting on Thursday?
We wanted to
we've
discuss
got,
that with you.
we've got business. If we can take care of this business now,
Yeah, we have some
the rest of
other
it,
stuff.
then we don't need to meet on Thursday.
Okay.
Moving on then.
Moving on. So SRF bond.
I'm giving you this because this motion is long. So the SRRF bond, you signed off on this right after the budget hearing. You had to give a verbal okay for us because it passed. This part of this is that we're allocating, you're authorizing the money. So it's the $1,803,265 to be spent for the sprinklers at Hanson, Huzzy, and North Berwick, and the asbestos remediation for Noble Middle School.
So can Nancy read that?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, I move that the vote entitled Vote to Authorize $1,803,265 School Revolving Renovation Fund Financing be approved in form presented to this meeting, and that the secretary file an attested copy of said vote with the minutes of this meeting.
I will second that.
All in favor?
we need to do it by, I need to sign up, I need to check it off. So I don't know if you want to do a roll call?
Sure, let's do a roll call. I got that down. Linda Corliss,
Yes.
Travis Dwyron,
Yes.
Stephanie Hagenboot,
Yes.
Rebecca Hopper,
Yes.
Nancy Newberg,
Yes.
Joanne Potter,
Yes.
Estrida Schaefer,
Yep.
and me, Denise Mallett, yes.
Thank you.
And we have another donation.
From Bubba Fry's.
Wow, great.
For $750 to the backpack program this time.
Bubba Fry.
Yeah, they've been great.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Do we need to make a motion to accept that?
I make a motion.
Oh, no, do we? I think because it's over 500?
I think we do because it's.
We do have to vote,
Okay,
yeah.
so do you guys do that? Okay, and can we get a second?
I'll second.
Do we need a roll call again, or?
No, that's
Okay, all in favor? Rebecca? Thank you to Bubba Fry's. And we are going to table the nomination of the Noble High School Assistant Principal until the next meeting, or until further notice.
There are a couple of circumstances that have come up, so we're going to delay that for right now.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then, do we still have some other employment?
Yes.
Okay.
Before we go, do we have 2 assistant principal positions open at the high school right now?
We had AJ that we
Yeah.
hired, and then this is the latest one for Tyler.
Tyler,
AJ hired, okay.
Yes.
AJ replaced Amy, right?
All right,
Yes.
yeah.
So we have a resignation from Nanda Debbie Ornberger from Huzzy Schools. She taught kindergarten, and she's having some childcare things going on, so she needed to resign from her position at Huzzy. And we have 2 new hires that we have. We have Amanda Ledoux, who is going to be teaching 7th grade math, and then Jessica Cavallari, who's going to be taking on the guidance position here at the high school. She's coming from New Jersey, and had just finished a couple of long-term guidance positions there. And Amanda has been working in our district at the middle school as an ed tech, so she's just changing her role. So both of them are very excited to be joining us.
Do we have to make a motion to accept the resignation or not?
Yes,
Yes.
thank you.
So even though we give you that authority over the summer?
That's for hiring?
For hiring.
That's just for hiring. You have to,
Okay.
basically, it's important that you know that we have people coming and going.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to accept that resignation with regret. She was an awesome.
Yeah, she's great,
She
yeah.
was amazing.
Yes.
So I'm not happy to resign. I understand why.
Yeah, she's got a young family and it's hard to figure out.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Rebecca says yes.
Yeah.
Are there any others?
I don't think so. I think we're all set.
We're good.
So next meeting, September, whatever that first Thursday is?
Do we,
Do we
if
wanna
we
do
don't
that?
have one this Thursday, do we need to have one next week, or let's do it the 3rd, what did you say that was?
I don't know, I gotta look at my
The-
calendar. Well, the 8th is on Tuesday, right?
So the 10th, unless we
Or
need.
the 3rd, which,
I'd love to have one before we actually get going.
because usually it's 1st and 3rd.
Right.
Thursday.
To the 3rd of September.
So should we do the 3rd?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And if anything, again, right, in between, which if Mike Roberts were here as a betting man, he would say probably something will come up.
Yeah.
Okay, September 3rd, 7 o'clock
All right.
in here.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I know that this question was asked for the younger kids, but do you know when the high schoolers are going to get their schedules?
Didn't it come, did it
It
come
something came
today?
out tonight.
Is that
Came out
what
today?
it was?
Yeah,
Yes.
if they log, so,
You can log into your Infinite
well,
Campus.
so the issue was, the text message that came out, like, I didn't get it, but my wife got it, but it didn't have the link attached to it.
Okay,
Right.
So somebody on Facebook shared the link, and it tells you to go to the Infinite Campus to look at your schedule.
yeah, I think there's actually, my guess, I think there was an actual message from Noble High School tonight that went out to say, check that link, yep.
Yeah,
Infinite
it
Campus.
did, but there was no link there.
Right,
Margaret, would you
Yes.
please send your presentation to us?
This one?
Yeah,
Okay,
so I'll get the dates right.
sure.
and
you
those,
want-
that'll go into the minutes as well.
And you want the correspondence that we're sending out tomorrow about all the health stuff too, as well? Okay,
Yeah.
okay. And we'll send you, I know some of you that have children have that, but we'll try to send you everything that we're sending
I
out.
don't mind getting it 7.
Okay, okay.
I'd rather read it on there than have a parent ask.
That's
me, I have
right.
No idea what you're talking
That's
about.
been the biggest thing, is
Okay.
parent communications with,
Sure.
at least I know with myself, I can only assume the rest of you guys have been crazy.
Yes.
And so the more we can be educated, the better
Okay.
we are
We'll do the
to
best
solve
we
some
can.
of the problems that are out there.
Right.
Solve some of the rumors that are being put out
Right.
there.
Did, Katrina, you may have asked, or somebody asked at the last meeting, if non-parents could get put on.
Yeah.
Did you get the text today from? Okay, so we should
Right.
make sure.
Chris,
I didn't get it.
Yeah, so
I didn't get it either.
that they get those.
Okay.
Well,
I'll get you in the list.
probably just the district ones, not all the individual school ones.
Yes,
Oh,
exactly.
yeah.
Were you?
I had something,
Oh.
but it's completely gone now. Maybe you and I can be on the same page both times, so maybe you got it.
Yeah. I don't know, but I just realized we have to adjourn. Oh, I make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Jen just
Forgot.
texted that she just shared that presentation with you
Okay,
guys, so.
It's
Good when she's listening in to read it.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
So Ms., I apologize, who seconded that?
Rebecca?
Stephanie,
Stephanie
second.
seconded.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Now that we're adjourned, is that off?
No, not
Okay.
yet.
No, not yet.
I have something unrelated, so.
Okay, Carolina just scored, but I'll stay.
What just scored?
There was,
That
was the volume.
Are
Are we off?
Are we off, Chris? Chris, are we,
Web, it wasn't.
are we off, Chris?
You're about to be off.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Bye.